All right, guys, welcome in to Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel. Max Barr joins our first college basketball preview / prediction video of the 25-26 season. Where else would we start other than defending national champion Florida Gators, who are going to take on the Arizona Wildcats? That is a 7 p.m. Eastern tip on TNT on November 3rd. Opening night in college basketball takes place at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas as part of the Hall of Fame series there. Max over at FanDuel. We, of course, don't have a game line for this one yet. We're recording this several days in advance since we have the luxury of doing that. Won't be the case during the season. But we do have Florida still at plus 1,700 in terms of their national championship odds over there. And you've got Arizona at plus 3,500. If you want to look at the conference winner numbers, Arizona currently with the sixth best odds, plus 900 over at FanDuel to win the Big 12. And no surprise, Florida plus 260, the current favorite to win the SEC.
Yep, we do not have game lines on all outlets right now, but we do have a Florida -4, Florida -3.5 floating around, depending on where you look. About a basket and a half, 2-basket favorite here for the Gators. Going to be played in Vegas, obviously. So, closer to Wildcat Nation, but neutral. KenPom has a projection of a 5-point win for Florida. We know that, early lines are very heavily reliant on preseason analytical projection. So there's your little background for what the line is going to spit out. But Blake, before we get into the nitty gritty here, before we start breaking down this matchup, I want to preface by telling you the history of the matchup. Only 4 meetings between the Wildcats and the Gators since 2000. Okay, they met in 2001, 2003, 2011, and 2012. It's been a long time before these two teams have matched up. In those 4 games, the average margin of victory is 3 points. It was a 4-point game, a 1-point game, a 6-point game, and a 1-point game. If history has anything, if there's any trend here, we're going to be looking at a good one.
So what you're saying, Max Barr, get your Game Time Sidekicks cups ready, because this is one that you may have to fill up a couple times during this fantastic matchup between the Gators and the Wildcats. Of course, Game Time Sidekicks, a proud sponsor at Southeastern 16, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. Every SEC school is there. Over 350 more universities as well. If you're an Arizona fan, check it out, GameTimeSidekicks.com. They have the stainless steel sippy cups. They got the tumblers, the 40-ounce bottles, the shaker cups. If you want a nice discount, get 20% off at Game Time Sidekicks. SE16, 20% discount over at GameTimeSidekicks.com. All right, Max, as we said, we know the Gators are the defending national champions. The big story for Florida this offseason has been, well, it's been 2 things. It's been the return of their dominant front court, getting our guy, Sir Thomas Houck, back into the fold. Alex Condon, Ruben Chenyolu, and Micah Hand-Logden, they're all back. A national championship front court has returned for the Gators, but it's also, I think everyone's asking the question, how different is the backcourt going to be? There's no Walter Clayton. There's no Will Richard. There's no Elijah Martin. And now you turn it, and of course there's no Denzel Aberdeen, who transferred to Kentucky. But now you turn the keys over to, what I think in terms of leading the way will be that duo of Boogie Fland and Xaivian Lee. And they are expected, of course, to pick right up where the other group left off last year in helping Florida win the national championship. And certainly I think when you look at this particular matchup where you're looking at, kind of any adjustments we see with the guard play going up against a pretty fun unit, I think, in the backcourt for this Arizona team with Jaden Bradley, who, of course, we saw at Alabama, several years ago. He's now, an older leader-type guy on this roster. And, of course, you bring in Brayden Burries, a top 10 recruit who just at 6'4", absolute, physical-type scorer and all that. So I love the backcourt matchup here between the Gators and the Wildcats.
Yeah, should be highlight reel material. And let's start with Boogie Fland. No Boogie Fland in the Florida exhibitions. Kind of a precautionary sit out after some bruises from practice, bruises from the offseason, nothing serious. Boogie is not expected to miss any time the regular season, but we haven't seen him yet. In his place, it's been Urban Klabchar, who has been starting next to Xaivian Lee, Princeton transfer. Florida coming off of the win against Illinois in the exhibition. There was no Boogie, and then for Illinois, there was no Stojakovic or Petrovic. So both teams were missing some good guys. Florida put up 50 in the first half, thanks to Condon and Rubin just leading the show. But then Illinois came back and actually had a 5-point lead in the second half. But it was Urban Klabchar, Blake, in the exhibition that hit some big shots in Florida's 2 exhibitions. Now, this is going to be very tough to continue. Urban is 9 of 15 from 3, 60% so far in the 2 exhibitions for Florida. So some unexpected spurt from Klabchar with Boogie hasn't been out. You'll get him now. And for Arizona, Awaka didn't play in that first St. Mary's exhibition. Same thing, precautionary. He was back in the second exhibition. So both teams, Awaka for Arizona, Boogie for Florida, a little bit banged up, but nothing to worry about.
Well, yeah, and I think if you just kind of look at it, like we said, I think you're going to certainly see some things. By the way, I want to mention Alex Lloyd, too, for Florida, because our guy, Neil Blackman, made sure to note that he's probably the guy not being talked about enough, freshman coming in for the Gators, just because of all the guys they have returning and it brought in via the transfer portal. Of course, Arizona, Max, is not a transfer-heavy team because they are, of course, going the international route. In terms of like Tommy Lloyd building his rosters, no surprise there. I think we had one transfer portal addition. That was Evan Nelson, who came over from Harvard. And so you've got a lot of, again, you've got a combination of freshmen, you've got a combination of the international guys, and that's kind of the story here, I think, for Arizona. Because like you said, you can look at some of the things from these first exhibitions. I mean, the one they just played, what was it? They beat somebody by 70 or something like that.
Embry Riddle.
I think it was.
Don't be talking down on Embry Riddle.
Is that who they played? I'm sorry. I had no idea. But they won by 70, I believe. But I know, the one exhibition, as you mentioned, that we probably can take some things from, that was the one against St. Mary's. I know Tommy Lloyd did note, or was maybe asked about kind of, the rebounding situation. But remember, Awaka didn't play in that one against St. Mary's. And 2, let's also know that St. Mary's is usually a very, very good / elite rebounding team. So I don't know if I'd take, a lot away from that because, again, without Awaka, I think it's hard to kind of judge exactly there. But Krivas did have 17 rebounds in that one. And I think, Max, that's kind of, to me, if you go beyond maybe what is the top storyline for SEC / Florida fans, what does the Florida backcourt look like? I think if you go to the other side of things, it's really what will this Arizona front court do to challenge some of the things for this, again, very talented, very decorated Florida front court now, because they've certainly got some guys, whether we talk about Krivas, again, Awaka, Peat's there. I mean, there's a lot of intrigue and I think a lot of talent in terms of the matchup here when it comes to this front court for both teams.
That's honestly the most exciting part for me personally, is this front court matchup, because you look at what Florida did in their exhibitions just against Illinois. Rubin and Condon both have double-digit rebounds, and the reports out of that was Condon was outstanding. Like, I think he had 20-ish points, double-double with rebounds, and then had like 5 or 6 assists as well.
Yeah, it was like 24, 13, and 5 or something like that.
Just a stuff the stat sheet type of game from Condon. And so then you also got some good stuff from Micah Henlockton as well. Henlockton's getting in some action. So that's the new strength, I think, of this Arizona team with Peat at 6'8". We didn't mention Ivan Karchenkov, the 6'6", 6'7"-ish international who's looked really good in the 2 exhibitions. Hasn't really played a ton of minutes, like 20-ish, 15 minutes.
He's a bulldozer. Like, this guy, just relentless pursuit of the basket. That's what I have on my notes. Like, I don't know how many times I put that down for a player, Max Barr, but like, relentless pursuit of the basket. That is the wording we're using for this guy.
He's physical. There's a physical team. You have Dwayne Aristode, the 6'8" freshman, another 6'8" freshman, the highlight of the whole team, and Peat. Awaka is a bulldozer. Mo Krivas is a beast. This is a fantastic, deep front court that, quite frankly, I think just on a physicality level, just on a let's go body for body and see who can get the rebound, Arizona's got the 6'8", 6'10" athletes to match the physicality of Florida. So that is honestly that's storyline number one for me. Florida's probably going to be able to get matched physically in the front court here.
Well, and we know Waka's used to it again. I mean, someone who came from the SEC,
monster.
I think he kind of talked about that before too. But yeah, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of, I think, front courts this year. Again, you can certainly, I think, make the argument that Florida has the best front court in the country, just based off of, again, that entire unit that they have there. But I mean, I don't know how many front courts they're going to see like this, and maybe I don't know if that is from like a number standpoint or anything like that, but just like the versatility I think that you have with the top guys in the front court for Arizona. And like I said, that's nothing new, right? I mean, it's a Tommy Lloyd built team. We know kind of the history going back with the Zags and all these other things. Like, you just kind of know you're going to get a variety of styles with their front court players. And, being able to work the high-low and like all these other things that have made them successful. But I think the rebounding aspect, like I said, maybe something we'll see how that plays out in this game. We talk about relentless. We know Florida relentless on the offensive glass, with this group especially. And I think that may be even more important this year for this team in terms of like maybe some things that aren't exactly the same offensively, may have a few more opportunities for that. And so, yeah, I mean, and, I think too, Max, in terms of how this game is played, look, I mean, and Tommy Lloyd said it numerous times, not just this offseason, but over the years, right? They're not a team. There may be some concerns about this team, maybe shooting-wise. I know that was brought up after some of the exhibition stuff. But, like, he wants them to go downhill and get to the free throw line. Like, they want to score at the basket. They want to get to the free throw line. And I think with this Florida team, you feel like we said, whether it comes to rebounding, those kind of things, there will be a lot of plays at the rim in this game. And I think it feels like both teams have pretty decent depth. So may not be as much of a factor than when these teams match up against other teams that maybe don't feel like they have the same kind of depth to match them, should you get in foul trouble and those kind of things in a game like this.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was kind of the one area of concern for Florida against Illinois, was they let up a lot of dribble penetration, a lot of downhill action. And I think a lot of that is Boogie Fland. No Boogie Fland. He's going to be a fantastic defender for this team, but that was a concern coming out of the Illinois exhibition. You mentioned the 3-point numbers for Arizona. 4 of 16 against St. Mary's, 4 of 13 against Embry-Riddle. That's 8 of 29 combined, about just over 27%. So not ideal, but doesn't seem like Tommy Lloyd is very worried. The one part where I think that Florida may have a little bit of an advantage is making Arizona one-dimensional. If you look at their shot creation from last year, who was kind of creating everything, KJ Lewis was the team leader in assist percentage. And then you would think Jaden Bradley would be after KJ Lewis, but it wasn't. It was actually Caleb Love was second. Now, not by much. These are thin margins, but the top two statistically, assist rate guys on Arizona last year were KJ Lewis and Caleb Love. And so you saw Tommy Lloyd mess around with the minutes, trying to get little Brayden Burries at the point, put Del Orso into the starting lineup. Who's going to be the main guy at the point for us? Because statistically, Jaden Bradley doesn't really have the history of numbers to be the lead guy with an assist rate up there north of 25%, dishing out, north of 5 assists every game. He doesn't have that history. So that's one thing that I'll be interested about. If Arizona's not knocking down shots, they have the capabilities. They just hasn't looked like that yet. Florida could turn them into a one-dimensional team just with the lack of shot creators that they have.
Feels like one of those games, too, where I fully expect the backcourt duos that are going to start to play, a significant amount of minutes in this game.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where again, the depth, I think, for both teams is in the front court. Like, that is where I think they're going to make waves this season. It's just based on being able to physical teams to the point where it's like they're throwing bodies at you. And I feel like, even like Del Orso, I mean, what is it? He gained 20-plus pounds of muscle this offseason. So it's like they're built like a team that I think will probably feel pretty good about playing a pretty physical style, which we know Florida is just they're going to bang, bang, bang in terms of being on the glass and just relentless defensively with those guys. All right, Max, let's make some picks for this one. As we said, of course, as we get into the season, we'll have more lines and that kind of stuff we can play into with FanDuel and everything. But we don't have that here. You mentioned, maybe 4 or 5, something like that, whatever it settles at. Thoughts on this one, Florida, Arizona?
Yeah, I think, I do think Arizona's going to be able to run a lot of stuff through Koa Peat. It's going to look different than last year. But I think if you take everything into consideration, get Boogie Fland back, I think that shores up a little bit of the Florida dribble penetration concerns. I think the Arizona's going to have the front court advantage in 99% of their matchups. This just happens to not be one of them. And I think, given what we've heard about Urban Clavchar and Alex Lloyd coming off the bench, the depth in the backcourt, you feel a little bit better about it than maybe you did a few months ago, not really knowing what's behind Lee and Fland. I put out a tweet the other day, this game's coming up soon. And I got a lot of, reaction from Florida fans. Oh, -3.5, -4. Oh my gosh, they might win by 10 plus, 15 plus, 20 plus. What a free. I told you the history between Arizona and Florida before. Tommy Lloyd is 4-0 in season openers at Arizona. They lost their only SEC game last year. Remember that Oklahoma weird game, 82-77? Arizona wants revenge on the SEC. I don't like any play on the spread here in game one. Multiple possession spread. That's a lot for a good team. I'll go Florida here to take the win, but I think this is going to be a battle here. Arizona's got the physicality to hang in there, Blake.
Game one of the season for me, always the toughest to predict, which, again, we can't see the future here. We're just having fun with predictions, especially when you have two teams like this where, again, the build's a little bit different than it was last year. And I think for me, it's the Boogie Fland effect. How good is he right from game one, and how, again, different is it for Florida in terms of maybe how they run things with the new look backcourt. But the more I look at this Arizona team, the more I really like them. I think if they're the team with the 6th best odds to win the Big 12, Big 12 is going to be in good shape this year. I really like this team on paper. Of course, I am going to probably pick the defending national champions here in the Gators. But I'm with you. If Florida plays great, Arizona doesn't shoot the ball well, and maybe Florida just out-physical them on the boards, then sure, it could be a game where Florida winds up, winning this game. I don't want to say handily, but, wins it with a pretty good little cushion. Right. But I don't know about that. I really like kind of the roster that Tommy Lloyd's put together. So I'll pick Florida in this one, but I think these are two really, really good teams. There's a reason they're both in the top 15, and I think matchup-wise, there's a lot to like here, especially for me when we go to the front court. For these two. But, all right, let's quickly tell you on the way out about some of our fine sponsors as well. Yearly Company, Nashville-based fine jewelry, built on tradition, designed for meeting, each piece for a solid 14-karat gold, natural gemstones, made to measure for a perfect fit, back for our lifetime guarantee, that is. Because every Yearly Company bangle, custom size, knowing your size, the most important step, we'll give you 100% off at the checkout. 100% off on the sizing kit there. Code SE16KIT over at Yearly Company, 100% off. Sizing kit. ROKFORM.com, ROKFORM, the world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock, secure mounting. There may be a lot of rock lock in this game defensively. SEC25 for 25% off over there at ROKFORM.com. And HOVI Dry Goods, your new favorite hat. Look no further than the HOVI hats for high-quality headwear. Great fit, unique designs. Bad Beat is the code. Bad Beat, 15% off at HOVI Dry Goods. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Give us your predictions in the comments. Florida versus Arizona. Thanks for watching Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel.